Prime. Thanks for choosing My Media Prime. We're live from Studio A at Fengutron Bange in Douala, the country's economic capital. My name is Genda Peldrin Blanche King. We begin the news this evening from the presidency. President Paul Biya has received in audience the special advisor to the president of Burkina Faso, Thierry Hord. He was bearer of a sealed message from Roche Christian Kabore of Burkina Faso. Lasha Kingsley tells us more in the following report.
First of all, you should know that I'm Cameroonian, in spite of the fact that I'm the special advisor to the President Kabore. So I'm at home.
Cameroonian-born Thierry Hord, special envoy of President Roche Christian Kabore of Burkina Faso, was guest at the Unity Palace yesterday. Mr. Thierry Hord was bearer of a sealed envelope, which he handed to President Biya before the one-hour tete-a-tete discussions with Paul Biya. The substance of the discussions was:
I came here to share some views of my president with President Biya. It was about security, about fighting COVID-19, and about governance. It was a very nice, let's say, moments shared with President Biya.
Thierry Hord equally said his visit was basically to share experience in the fight against terrorism and COVID-19.
Along the area, sharing experience, mainly on these security issues, fighting terrorism, good practices. I think that it was one of the main purposes of this meeting.
Hord also expressed his gratitude and acclaimed President Paul Biya for his constant availability and fraternity towards the people of Burkina Faso.
Women traders were on the streets yesterday, on the streets of Kumba yesterday, to protest against municipal decision to seal their shops. After the long march, their shops were unsealed by the city mayor and the traditional council members who intervened after the week-long problem. Tamfu Sidwan Dimbia tells us more in the following report.
Tuesday, 25th August 2020, Kumba Main Market women traders on a protest march following the sealing of their shops by municipal authorities as a means to stop the Monday ghost towns in the city of Kumba. The women made their first stop at the Kumba City Council, but the city mayor Gokele Victor ordered that the gates should be closed. Resultantly, the women marched to the Kumbanfon's palace to inform the chief, and from Mukete the food Ekoko was not present at the palace. The Fond Emerito Senator V.E. Mukete sorted out the problem by inviting the city mayor, the Kumba One mayor, and the Kumba Traditional Council, who for close to 4 hours had a deep meeting on how to bring a solution to the worries of the women. At 3 p.m., the city mayor and the Kumba Traditional Council finally addressed the population and promised to follow them to the market to unseal the shops.
They go work out with we. Go unseal the stores.
At the markets, the traditional council performed some libation, after which the shops were unsealed. On why the traders protested, they stated that they are not secure to carry on their business activities on Mondays.
Say Monday where you did talk and so that very first day when I come for market, I be talk how will they harass me from Bongero dear. Papa, I beg, now that one where with the Crise, we will not think about, we not deny, we not go open we market now. But that Monday, Papa, we will come out, we will come out. Even with the cry, no nothing.
As it stands, the fight against ghost towns in Kumba is gradually becoming unrealistic.
Inhabitants of Iyoke and Moyo subdivisions say they yearn for the return of peace in Moyo subdivision. The ongoing Anglophone crisis, which has lasted for over 4 years now, according to them, has brought untold suffering to the population. The population made this request after receiving basic foodstuff donated by the Brim, as our reporter Crise tells us in the following report.
Apart from ensuring the safety and security of the population, this is how the army commute with its population. This visit of the joint team of the BrigadeAntiSardinard to UK was to donate foodstuff to the population. The food items included bags of rice, vegetable oil, onions, salt, cartons of savon to side with these handed to the population.
For symbol. It's not that for feed all the village symbol. We take small, and so on. That's to show that we get together now.
This symbolic handing over of items, according to Colonel allengagedcitizens, falls in line with strengthening the relationship between the army and the nation.
It's not the first time we do it. We used to. It's a manner to communicate with the population. This population, we do it with the population. So we work together. It's a symbol to tell them that we are together and to reinforce the link between army and the nation, to ensure them, telling that we are there for their security, we are there to protect them.
While receiving the food items on behalf of the population, the youth leader of UK hailed the gesture by the military. But like Oliver Twist, the demands of the population are enormous.
Today, I feel really toxic. They don't try their best. They don't try their best to do what they can. And their best will never be enough. And at the same message now, I made a talk for His Excellency, President Paul Biya. When they do all the kind of things, that's until you know we help the community, you know we help this food, for this fight, we need to fight. Make it strong, I will say, make it make peace, make it make Cameroon maybe as one. Because all the things that they can't get, so you know we help with no nothing. Go chop at today now, tomorrow we'll see the fight, tomorrow one wrong go by against Abu. Make it strong, I will say, make it end this problem the way it did. Because this running up and down, killing here and there, it will not be good.
The population was equally encouraged to freely communicate with the defense and security forces whenever needs arises.
All these people, these bad people, they disturb now. Not good so. We want you to live in peace here. We are here for peace.
Meanwhile, these troubled inhabitants of UK are hoping to see the current crisis come to an end and for peace and serenity to reign in this crisis-hit community once more.
A computer platform for the National Economic and Financial Committee was launched yesterday by the Minister of Finance during a meeting in Yaoundé. This is to fight against banking fraud and false online declarations. Student journalists on internship at Upper Content completes the story in the French language.
La plateforme informatique a été présentée hier par le ministre des Finances, Louis Paul Moutazi, au cours d'une conférence du Comité national économique et financier à Yaoundé. Elle a pour but de traquer les escroqueurs bancaires et ceux qui font les fausses télédéclarations. Un clic suffirait à un gestionnaire pour les démasquer en raison de l'innovation qu'apporte la dite plateforme informatique.
Est-ce que vous commettez un incident de paiement avec la CIP? L'assujetti va procéder à une télédéclaration. Il va dire « Madame est frappée d'interdiction bancaire ». Et cette information, contrairement au système manuel, sera partagée par tout le système bancaire. Ça veut dire que vous êtes fiché. Vous êtes dans une relation d'affaires avec quelqu'un. La personne vous fait un chèque. Avec notre système, vous avez la possibilité d'aller chez votre banquier pour vérifier la régularité du moyen de paiement avant de vous engager dans la relation.
Ainsi, les personnes véreuses pourront courir à un certain nombre de sanctions, notamment la suspension des possibilités à bénéficier les crédits et le retrait des chéquiers bancaires. Cependant, la bonne nouvelle, c'est qu'après la mise à jour de la plateforme, le client débutant peut être crédible au terme d'une opération avec à l'appui le remboursement de ses clients.
Over 2 million vulnerable Cameroonians will soon benefit from a response scheme granted them by Prudential Beneficial Insurance in partnership with Value Health Africa. The support scheme will help disadvantaged Cameroonians in the fight against COVID-19. Details in the following report. As COVID-19 continues to pose a major threat in Cameroon, individuals, organizations and groups have taken up corporate social responsibilities, helping the vulnerable communities in Cameroon. Responding to the health situation in the country, Prudential Beneficial Insurance has taken measures to effectively and efficiently assist disadvantaged communities. During a press conference organized earlier today at Accra, Douala, it was disclosed that Prudential Beneficial Insurance, in partnership with Value Health Africa (VAHA), is committed to improving community education and timely prevention of COVID-19 in all 10 regions in the country.
We want to reach at least 2 million Cameroonians, especially the vulnerable ones, and also reach health workers, reach community workers, community heads, to help curb the spread of the pandemic.
As part of this initiative, 35 hand-washing stations will be established in strategic positions and health education provided in all health centers. Hand sanitizers, face masks and other essential protective kits will also be made available.
Bien évidemment, on va les mettre à décider aussi de mettre dans d'autres orphelinats une unité de production de masques et de gel hydroalcoolique qui va permettre de pouvoir servir ces communautés parce que c'est pas évident.
To ensure the possibility of this project, Value Health for Africa, a non-profitable organization, has been selected to ease coordination and interaction with the hinterland. To this effect, the sum of 41.1 million francs CFA was handed by Prudential Beneficial Group to Value Health Africa.
This funding came from the Prudence Foundation. The Prudence Foundation is a charity arm of Prudential. And it's a not-for-profit organization. So we needed to have a structure that shared the same values as our foundation. So we needed to go for an NGO as well, who share the same values, because the Prudence Foundation could not deploy itself across locally. So we needed to have a local entity, and of course the core value for NGOs resides around charity. So that's the reason why we went for an NGO.
Prudential Beneficial Insurance, with a focus on the well-being of clients and the population, has existed for over 100 years, targeting and assisting globally. With the birth of this partnership, they will work hand in hand with VAHA to attain positive results in Cameroon. A one-day seminar organized by the Cameroon Youth Movement Association under the theme Youth Empowerment as a Life Legacy took place recently in Douala. The seminar aimed at discussing entrepreneurship was chaired by Dr. Audrey Zatza in the following reports.
In this hall is a conference on entrepreneurship which took place a few days ago in Douala. Youth Empowerment as Life Legacy was the theme of this seminar, chaired by the president of the Cameroon Youth Movement Association, Dr. John Ako, the organizers of the event. In the course of this congress, the life of late Ruth Obioma, a member of the association, was celebrated as her life was used as an illustration to empower the youths.
We thank God because she has been born to be with God. I will say thank you, Jesus, for this child given to us. And I want to tell every youth here, I want to say to you, what makes you is not just what you do.
The meeting kick-started with the Reverend preaching on life after death in line with the commemoration of late Ruth Obioma. Talking on the event, Dr. John Ako spoke to the youths on morality as he said,
Youth and morality and morals will have to do with one. What is good or right? What is good or right will only depend very strongly on every individual's consciousness. And so we have to go with intentions, we have to go with the mind, we have to equally talk of the personality, because what depends as a good person. Are you good? People need not tell you that you are good. You don't need that, because your actions will obviously lead the environment and those who depend on you to appreciate. And the consequences is that the environment in which you live with will continuously become very conducive and favorable for you.
An entrepreneur, Mr. Ekane, focused on women entrepreneurship.
Women, because it is believed in those days that only men can go and fend for money. But nowadays, look at the economic situation of our country, realize that women are in businesses more than men.
The occasion, which equally gave room for family representatives of Ruth Obioma to testify on her good deeds while encouraging individuals to educate the youth on life essential value, ended in a good note.
You're on to verse 6:30, Prime News on My Media Prime. Thanks for being a part. The University of Bamako Community is mourning again as two of theirs died in Yaoundé on Monday. Dr. Kmer and his students were involved in a ghastly motor accident. Details with student journalist on internship, Nai Vuna.
It is sad news for the University of Bamenda, who in barely a month after losing her registrar, Professor Balilon Victor, to death, has recorded a similar loss, with victims being a lecturer in the Department of Performing and Visual Arts, alongside his master's degree student in a fatal accident at the 20th May Boulevard in Yaoundé. A crash that occurred Monday night, breaking 25th August, resulted to the death of the university lecturer Dr. Kmer, together with his master's student in Quantum Damasius. It should be noted that Dr. Kmer died 3 days after legalizing his marriage at the St. Joseph Mvokada in Yaoundé, and until his death has been lecturer at the University of Moyo, a part-time lecturer in the University of Bamenda, and the divisional delegate of arts and culture in Mezam. May his soul rest in peace.
6 months after the first COVID-19 case was reported in Africa, recent statistics from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention has revealed that the continent has gone over 1.2 million cases, with South Africa being the hardest hit country. Fon Quinta completes the story.
The progression of COVID-19 in Africa has taken a different path, as 6 months after the first case was detected on the continent on February 14, 2020 in Egypt, figures have risen to almost 2 million. According to the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the continent is closing in on 1.2 million cases mark of the pandemic, with numbers of fatalities at 28,345, while 934,384 Africans have recovered. On the African continent, South Africa remains the most affected, counting plus 600,000 cases, followed by Egypt with 97,619 cases, Morocco coming third with plus 54,000 cases, with Nigeria on the fourth position, counting 52,800 cases, and Ghana on the fifth position with 43,717 COVID-19 cases. The Africa Centers for Disease Control further review that Southern Africa is the continent's worst hit region, followed by Northern Africa, while West, East and Central Africa have recorded the least cases. As the continent nears 1.2 million cases of COVID-19, the Africa Centers for Disease Control and Prevention has urged nations to be more aggressive in dealing with the pandemic, calling for more efforts in testing, contact tracing, and above all respect for all COVID-19 barrier measures put in place by governments and the World Health Organization.
Nora Kakebi takes us through other news-making events in the African continent. Her report.
Several districts of Niger's capital, Niamey, were flooded yesterday, Tuesday, after heavy rainfall caused the Niger River to break its banks. Homes, rice fields, and market gardens were destroyed, and almost all of Niamey's 1.5 million inhabitants live on the banks of the river. A resident of the area, Zali Abdurrahman, says all of the people from the lowlands have sought refuge in classrooms because their homes have all collapsed. The government has asked residents to evacuate the affected areas, but many have nowhere to go. Recently, 38 people have drowned and 58 others injured due to heavy rains in Niger. The government has promised new efforts to protect certain districts from the rising waters. Meanwhile, the International Francophone Organization has suspended in membership of Mali in the wake of the army takeover on August 18th. The group of French-speaking nations has called for the liberation of overthrown President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta and a return to civilian rule. The Permanent Council of the Francophone group promised that current cooperation projects intended to benefit Mali's civilian population would not be affected. In Libya, for the third consecutive day, hundreds of young people marched in Tripoli in protest against deteriorating living conditions and corruption amid a heavy security presence. The demonstrators, who included teenagers and children, marched in the capital. They are angry about the extended shortages of water, fuel and power, and equally demand that corrupt officials be put on trial. According to the head of UN-recognized Government of National Accord, Fayez al-Sarraj, new ministers will be chosen based on their competence, abilities and integrity, and he vows to take exceptional measures to carry out the reshuffle if it were opposed.
Thanks, Nora Kakebi. Prime News ends here. Thanks for being a part of today's edition of Prime News on My Media Prime. Join us tomorrow at 6:30 Cameroon time for another edition of Prime News on My Media Prime. Ewane Airline no longer produced the news, coordinated by Faith Tata Beranyoy. My name is Gienda Belgian Blanche King. Until we meet again tomorrow at 6:30 Cameroon time, stay tuned to My Media Prime. Coming up next is Prime Hour with Kim Leonard and his panelists. Join them as they discuss issues about Cameroon, Africa, and the world. Enjoy today's edition of Prime Hour only on The African Eye.